Hello and welcome back to another episode of Internal Rambles. This is your girl Rachelle, and today we have another segment, another episode of The Male Perspective with Gio. I have Gio with me again today. Gio, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on the show again.
Thank you for coming back on. Today we're gonna switch it up a bit. I thought it would be kind of cool to have a bit of an organic episode where I don't know what Gio wants to talk about, and he doesn't know what I want to talk about. I have a couple of topics, and hopefully, he has a couple of trending topics, and we're just gonna have a discussion and see how this goes. And so, I thought it would be kind of cool, kind of similar to the way that the Smart List podcast does it, where they one of the hosts will bring in a surprise guest and they just kind of go with it. And so I don't know if you want to start off or I can start off, whichever way works. I'm cool with.
You
But
can start.
okay. So I have one that it's kind of a topic that people um some people like really get into arguments about. I don't know why people are so, I mean, I guess well, no, I don't understand why people get in arguments about it, but I struggled with trying to come up with an answer. It literally probably will change as I'm talking about it, but it comes up periodically all the time on social media and just kind of in magazines, etc. And so my first topic is, what is your top five dead or alive hip hop artists?
I feel like that it's very difficult to say what should be a definitive list for everyone.
Hmm.
There's also groups and duos and time periods and things along those lines. So I will talk specifically going off the top of my head uh right now, just for me personally, in terms of my life and people that I've been big fans of and stuff like that. So definitely Jay-Z. I'm not really gonna do an order. This is not like a specific order. So I'll definitely say Jay-Z fits in there somewhere. Bone Thugs and Harmony definitely fit in there somewhere. Method Man definitely fits in there somewhere. Um, shucks. 50 Cent. And for the fifth person, I'll go with someone kind of newer. I'll, man, I'll throw in Jeezy. I'll throw in Jeezy. So that's why I'll go Jay-Z, Bone Thugs and Harmony, Method Man, Jeezy, 50 Cent. And I can elaborate, but I don't know if you want to say yours next or how you want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like you said, I think it can change it. Like today, this would be my top five. Tomorrow, I could have a different top five, and it also depends on which way are you looking at it. Are you looking at it from time periods? Are you looking at it from just strictly lyricism? Are you looking at it from success? I mean, it could be a lot of different ways to look at it. And just also for me too, I'm not even looking at just kind of the pioneers of hip hop because I can't even really speak to having really listened to those artists. So this was hard because I know people just be like, you gotta have this person, that person. So my top five, which I kept changing when I was trying to even write down five. So I have um Eminem, Fabulous, Tupac, Nas, and Jay-Z. And I kind of struggled with putting in uh Jay-Z. I know that sounds kind of weird, but just because I feel like his newer music I didn't really listen to, but also I can't really I can't say he's not one of the greats. So yeah, that's my top five right in the moment. Eminem, Fab, Tupac, Nas, Jay-Z. So I don't know if you wanted to elaborate more or kind of talk about further. I have a little bit more to say. I struggle with this darn list. Um, and there's some people that I wish that I feel like could be interchangeable too. So, yeah.
Yeah, again, I, at least me personally, I'm not equipped to do like this is the definitive for like every person and like this person, it's this exact order and like all that different kind of stuff. So I kind of just mostly based it off of my life and like kind of impact and just people that I enjoy. Actually, you know what? I'm tripping. I'm gonna take Jeezy off and I'm gonna put Drake. Yeah, I got it. I'm gonna take Jeezy off. I'm gonna put Drake. So yeah, so also too another thing that I feel like was is a factor for me is people that I was a part of like them coming up. So
Mm-hmm.
like um for example, Drake. I started listening to Drake in college. There was a website called straighthip-hop.com. And I don't know if like this guy Nicholas F was like the owner of the website, but I don't know, they used to like promote his stuff like crazy. Like he had like a little banner, he had ads, like all his songs would like always be on there. And Drake Nicholas F was like one of the first, like at least kind of like mainstream, sort of not mainstream, but like main collaborators in like Drake's like early career. Like this is even before like comeback season and stuff like that. They used to do songs together. Like in particular, they got a song called AM to PM that I liked a lot when I was in college. And of course, before that, I watched Degrassi here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was listening, because you probably remember this back in the day, if you wanted to hear new music, you either had to like go to like a barbershop or somewhere and get like a physical CD, which would be like a DJ Clue or DJ K Slay or DJ Envy or somebody that they'd have a compilation of songs and you'd find ones that you liked, or that's how you would discover new artists, etc. And then when the internet started to become like more a part of it, then it kind of went into you could go on certain websites and they would, feature artists and feature songs and like things like that. So that website, it used to just be a good place to hear like especially like one-off songs, like remixes before they went on the radio, or like artists that just like threw a song out, it wasn't like on an album or whatever. You could hear a lot of that stuff. If it was leaked, they would put it onto straighthip-hop.com. But so being a part of like him coming up, 50 Cent, definitely like being a part of that coming up, like hearing those first mixtapes and things like that. Like I felt like a part of it. Same thing even with Bone. Like I wasn't, Bone came out before like a lot of that other stuff, and Bone was never like a mixtape type of group or whatever. But seeing their
Mm-hmm.
first videos and stuff like that, and Easy E was still alive and putting them on and whatnot, you felt a part of it. Method Man being a part of Wu-Tang, and then him doing his solo thing. I never owned, still to this day, I never owned Into the 36 Chambers. I never bought any Wu-Tang album. I was aware of Wu-Tang and some of the songs. And then when Method Man came out, when he did the song with Mary J. Blige, that's when I became a fan of Method Man specifically. And then I bought the CD mostly based off of that, which I think was actually like not even, that wasn't the first single. I think that was like the third or single or something like that. And there's a version without Mary J. Blige that they released before. And then Puff Daddy produced the remix and put Mary J. Blige on it. And I feel like that kind of like took him to like another level or whatever with that particular song. And the video, he had the Grant Hills on. I wanted the Grant Hills at that time. And even him
Mm-hmm.
like popping up, and he had half his hair braided and half of it out, the contact in his eye. It like was all like iconic stuff. Like it wasn't like a big, $1 million plus video, but I don't know. It's like the imagery of it just kind of like stuck out. Like him and Mary J. Blige on the rooftop, like, all of that kind of stuff. And then Jay-Z, when he came out with Reasonable Doubt, he had got shot in close proximity to that coming out. And he used to perform with a bulletproof vest on, maybe genuinely because of like fear of someone trying to shoot him, but it also looked like quote unquote gangster or whatever. So I remember back in the days of the Rochester War Memorial, not Blue Cross Arena, there was a concert with Busta Rhymes, Jay-Z, Nas, and maybe somebody else, AZ maybe. And that was the first concert I ever went to, which is kind of ridiculous. That's like all people rapping about violence. I was in like sixth grade and I went to that with my cousin. Like it wasn't, and my cousin's only like 3 years older than me, so she was maybe like 15 and I was 12. But and in different times. But in any event, like, going to that, and I really didn't know who Jay-Z was at that time, honestly. I was a Busta Rhymes fan, and so
Mm-hmm.
I was going, to see Busta Rhymes. And then I knew of Nas and, Jay-Z. I don't think I might not have known anything about Jay-Z, to be honest. I definitely maybe Ain't No Nigga I might have known about that song, but I had not purchased Reasonable Doubt at that time. I purchased it. Actually, I purchased Reasonable Doubt after I heard Volume One and liked that and purchased In My Lifetime Volume One. And then it's like, oh, a Reasonable Doubt is even better than this. And then I went back and got Reasonable Doubt. But in any event, so like that's like a big part of it to me is like kind of like what these albums and songs and things just kind of meant, in my life. And then of course you could kind of throw in other things like you mentioned, like, people's success or their impact. And, I could go on for days and days arguing, those points. And if you might cover some of that too, which I'm cool to talk about them, but those are like whole huge, conversations. But I feel like Method Man is probably the only like really questionable one in my opinion that probably anybody could argue like what like why would he be in the top five, but it's just because that was like one of the first people that when CDs came out and I bought a Discman and things like I used to play that CD like crazy to Cal I'm talking about, but then he basically never had another album that at least not that anybody cared about. Like 6 years later, he dropped, I think it was called Tikal 2.0 Judgment Day or something. And even I don't even think I bought that album. Or if I did, I don't even really remember any other songs in it or anything like that. It didn't really move the needle. But everyone else I felt like had like pretty crazy runs, and longevity. Like even if you argue like, okay, I don't like Jay-Z 444 or Magna Carta or whatever, but like it still was number one and sold a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and had impact, but it, wasn't maybe the same impact as his, previous everything, the Black Album, from Reasonable Doubt to Black Album, and then there was like after his retirement when he came back, people can argue those albums, good, bad, whatever. But even if you just took the Reasonable Doubt to the Black Album, that still was like a crazy run. And then Bone, at least bare minimum, the first two albums was like crazy. And
Boom, boom,
then
boom, boom.
no, actually the first three, my bad. I forgot about Creeping on the Come Up. Yeah. So the first three albums, crazy. My opinion, classic. Creeping on the Come Up, Eternal, East 99, Eternal, and Art of War, classic to me. I wasn't really a big fan of whatever the album was. I think it was called Resurrection. I had like the Phil Collins song on it, Take Me Home. Like I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really feeling that. I didn't buy that album. Plus, there was a ton of time between the Art of War and Resurrection, and I kind of like latched on to new people and just like wasn't really messing with it, but I still felt like they sold so much and was so big like that, as far as groups go. Like I don't know how anybody could list groups and not have Bone at a bare minimum in like the top 10. um But outside of that, 50 Cent, some people maybe could argue that he didn't have that much longevity, but I feel like he did, especially compared to newer artists. Like, there's not a lot of people that you could be like, this person has five or six in albums and they're all fantastic. It's usually like some type of decline. So from Get Rich or Die Trying to Curtis, people would probably consider like him, that's the period of him kind of like being on top. And then after I self destruct and whatever, if anything else came out after that, whatever. And then that's not even counting some of these people's like underground contributions. Like 50 Cent's contributions to mixtapes is like insane. And I don't think anybody could touch it. Maybe Wayne. Other than that, like I don't, like the 50 Cent is the future, and what's it called? No Mercy, No Surrender, or something like that. God's Plan, all these different mixtapes, like, and then the whole G Unit radio series, like this is like iconic stuff. If you were a person like in that realm and like listening to mixtapes and like, that kind of thing. Um, and yeah, and then Drake, huge contribution. He only made one what I would consider a mixtape. I know that if you read this, it's too late. It's supposedly a mixtape, but like it really wasn't. Um, but So Far Gone, it's pretty clear mixtape, big contribution that like kind of started his career, and then from then he's just been on top. And I don't know, I feel like people can like say whatever they want about him or ghostwriting or like the type of music that he makes, but as a working person that never sold drugs, never shot nobody, never killed nobody, I just relate to Drake. Like he make kind of like, it's like if you are a normal dude that's not like a psychopathic murderer or like a totally like apathetic, like drug dealer type person or robber, but you like not pussy, I feel like Drake is like relatable. You know what I'm saying? So um I like Drake, and I relate to him just in a broad form. You know what I'm saying? Is he the best lyricist ever? No. Like, is he like the best storyteller or like whatever these like little niche categories? The best with the flow or like the whatever? Is he the best singer? Absolutely not. Like, no. But the way that he brings a little bit of all of those different things and like puts them together into like one cohesive package,
Hmm.
I feel like that's why he's so been on top, for so long, and arguably has the longest run out of any of these guys, even Jay-Z. Like, I don't know. So that's a little bit into why I picked some of these people.
Yeah, I think they said that What a Time to Be Alive was supposed to be a mixtape too, just as an aside for
Right, right. I
future.
forgot about that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it also wasn't, you know.
Um, yeah, and you brought up and so I was just kind of thinking about because you brought up Jeezy, and I struggled with not putting him in my top five because I love Jeezy. Like
Yeah.
um I've seen
I
him
suffered many
live.
years through those callback tones, but I forgot which song that was. But yeah, many
Um,
years after the song was popular, I started to listen to that.
Probably one of the best concerts I've ever been to. And just that, I mean, to me, I think Jeezy also, you anticipated his albums, but also um his mixtapes. Like I used to live on Dat Piff, that website or app or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
was. And like he just had really, really great mixtapes. And so like he just, I don't know, like he's still to me, like his newest album was really great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know, I love Jeezy.
Yeah, me too. That's kind of why like I had him on there, and also too another reason why I had him is because other than 50 Cent, and it might even be comparable. Like, okay, you could say like sales, like Jeezy didn't have like the first week sales of his first
Hmm.
album were not quite as high as 50 Cent. But man, when Jeezy was getting ready to drop Thug Motivation 101, like I don't know how anybody could be like hotter than that in terms of rap.
Mm-hmm.
Like, being that that was the period of like the kind of window of like me like going out and like going to the club and stuff like that. Like, bro, like when they played that fucking and then what? Like the Manny Fresh joint, like it would go nuts. When they
Mm-hmm.
played the joint with Akon, what was that shit called again? Soul
Lot.
Survivor,
Yeah.
it would go nuts. When they
Mm.
played the joint, the Boys on the what's that called? What's that group called? Boys on the Hood?
Yeah. We the
With Joe
boys in
Degrees,
the
but
hood. In the
right,
hood.
right,
Yeah.
right. Anything for profit. Yeah. Like
Yep.
it would go crazy. I love
Mm-hmm.
it. It would go like, I mean, that was the second album, but you know what I'm saying? Like when they played up here, I can't even imagine, what it was like and like if you lived in Atlanta.
Atlanta.
But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
even up here in New York, like, people would go crazy. Like everybody had those snowman shirts. Like it was like it was nuts. Like it was like some Michael Jackson, like Beatles, like hood, like a hood version of that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
like he was really, really like that guy. Like there's not been many people that came out that other than 50 Cent. Like if somebody said 50 Cent coming out was hotter than him, I mean, there's a clear argument for that. He sold probably like double, what if not triple what Jeezy sold first week on his first album. And 50 Cent with the mixtapes and stuff like that was wild. And I feel like 50 Cent almost kind of cheated a little bit because he was from New York, but almost everything about him was like West Coast. Like Dr. Dre was doing all of his beats, so it sounded like if I can't do it, like that's a very like West Coast sounding sound in the club. Like it all sounded like very, very West Coast, like from a production standpoint. But he was like a New York guy, but he didn't have like a super heavy New York accent. So he was like almost kind of neutral. But so I felt like, people knew he was from Queens, knew he was from New York. So New York people gonna, take ownership of him. And people from the West Coast probably fuck with it heavy because it sounded like the West Coast. It sounded like a Snoop
Mm-hmm.
Dogg album or a Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Dre album or whatever the case may be. So that was like really smart, marketing. And then don't when you throw in the Eminem thing, he was at his peak, too during that exact same time. So him co-signing, definitely helped. And the songs they did together as a trio or with either two of them or whatever, they were all like really popular and really hot. So I would not argue against 50 Cent having like a hotter debut than Jeezy. But I've seen a lot of people's debuts. Like Snoop Dogg had a crazy debut, when and then when Doggy Style dropped, like that was crazy. I mean, I was a kid back then, but even, back then he was like 9, 10 years old, but that you had to have that. Like, I was trying to order gin and juice on the box. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you looked and what waited to see. I remember What's My Name being on Yo MTV Raps. Like that was a
Mm-hmm.
crazy run too. Drake had a crazy um, build up to his first album. Um, so, but I don't know, Jeezy, it just felt different. That's all I could say. Like, even if the numbers maybe don't reflect, whatever, him having the best one or whatever. But I mean, it was like everything he put out, it just sounded like fire, and it was just like from the first song to the last song, like people was just like bumping it. Like there was like an insane amount. There's like that album might have the most songs that like you could play on repeat. Like
Mm-hmm.
the intro, Thug Motivation 101, like you could play that on repeat. You could play And Then What on repeat. You could play Soul Survivor on repeat. You could, at least me, I could play Trap Star on repeat. I could play Air Forces on repeat. That's 6 songs right there. And I'm forgetting some.
Peace up, A
Um,
Town Down.
right, yup, you could play that on. I mean, like that's 7 songs. That's like almost a whole album that is like
Mm-hmm.
repeat value. You know what I'm saying? So, and then I mean, we just talking about people's kind of like come up. I mean, then he came with like mixtapes after that, or
Mm-hmm.
mixtapes during that period and also after. Um, and then albums. His albums were pretty, pretty solid after that. He's definitely been able to have longevity. And when going back to what you mentioned before about Snowfall, his most recent one,
Hmm.
I didn't really have like high expectations because I'm like, it's been so long. I haven't really heard nothing. I can't remember what was the last thing that he dropped before Snowfall, but I feel like it had been at least a couple years, maybe even 3 or 4,
Yeah.
um, since I remember him, dropping anything that I've like really heard about or anything like that. And then he's married now, and I think he's like some type of executive at Def Jam or something. So I'm like, this guy's not really probably gonna put out nothing like really, that sounded good, but sounded like the same old Jeezy. Like, it
Yeah, I'm
was
still listening to
Snowfall's a
Snowfall.
solid album. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's that joint is solid. So, for him to be, let's see, what the heck was that? It's gotta be almost 20 years, because when did he come out?
Mm.
Like 2005 or 2006? Definitely was putting mixtapes out, I feel like in 2005. I don't know if if Thug Motivation, I feel like that came out in 2006. We in 2023, so he's a couple years away from having been out for 20 years. If he hasn't been out 20 years, I don't know, maybe his first popular mixtapes, it might have been 2004, I'm not sure, but his Heat Up period and his first album, I'm pretty sure that came out in 2006. But yeah, so he's had a heck of a run. But also too, like you said, I'm sorry, I wasn't around when Melly Mel and Cool Mo
Mhm.
D, and as I was like a very, very young kid, like I remember Beastie Boys, like as like a kid, like 5, 6 years old, singing that, and Run DMC, Walk This Way. Like I remember watching that as a kid on MTV, like very, very young. I know like Run DMC is like super impactful. I know like LL Cool J even. Actually, you could, if somebody wanted to put LL Cool J, I wouldn't even be mad at that. You know what I'm saying? Like he had a crazy long run. Like matter of fact, he was the first one to have that. Like I'm that young, hungry, like vicious monster dude, like that's about to come in and take stuff over. Like he was
Mhm.
definitely like that first person, like that bad album. Like when he was coming out, like originally, like he was on fire, like Snoop and 50 and Jeezy and Drake. You know what I'm saying? Like it was that same type of energy, that like young guy, like I'm coming for it all. I'm better than all these dudes. His delivery, like nobody, people wasn't rapping like that. Like they was rapping like, take your mama clothes and put them in the laundromat, and then LL Cool J was like, listen to my radio. Like, the aggression and things was like on like level 20. So, even if somebody wanted to throw him in there. But, anyways, for the most part, that was not really my era. Like, I've heard the songs, I've heard Rakim, and things like that. But I wasn't old enough. Like I didn't go to the record store and purchase those albums when they first was coming out, or I never went to no concerts for none of those people or anything like that. So, although I definitely respect, Big Daddy Kane, Rakim, Cool G Rap, those different people, Run DMC, LL, etc. But it just simply, wasn't my time. So that's why I can't really, in any good conscience, like add any of them, instead of some of these people that I listed.
Yeah, and just kind of honorable mentions. Like I feel, and I put him in my top five, but like Fab, he has had a
Okay,
crazy run.
for sure.
Those mixtapes, there, was it There's No Competition?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all his drama tapes and his soul tapes, like all of those,
Mm-hmm.
he's still, you put Fab on a remix, he's gonna kill it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't sorry, I didn't mention him, but I love Two Chains. Like Two Chains is so dope to
Yeah.
me.
Mm-hmm.
And then like Jada Kiss, I was like, I gotta put Jada in here. I didn't even put Jada. I mean, it's
Right.
just so
Right.
many people. Rick Ross, and I love Future. I didn't even put him in here.
Ti.
Future is he is just a star,
Okay.
but to put him in my top
I
five,
was
I
gonna
couldn't.
put him too. I was kind of like, debating, just because I feel like Future gets a lot of like flack for being like a quote unquote like a mumble rapper and all that.
Hmm.
I feel like
Hmm.
that's nonsense. Like if you listen to Future now, I will kind of say this. I feel like a Future album it's gonna be like some filler, at least to me. Like, some songs that is just like, this is just, it's not bad. Like Future is too good of an artist to make like a bad song, but it'll be like 4 or 5 songs that's like just don't resonate with me at all. Also, he's
Hmm.
very experimental. Like people call him a mumble rapper, but like that's like so ridiculous to me because he's like a real artist. Like when I listen to Future, you could hear on one song him use 4 or 5 different flows. Like his
Yeah.
voice is like it's like an instrument. Like him, Wayne, Thug. They use their voices like instruments. Like sometimes it's a guitar, sometimes it's a drum, sometimes it's a flute. Like, it's like not literally, but you get what I'm saying. Like the way that he'll switch up flows and cadences and the tone and pitch of his voice just on one song, let alone like over the course of an album. You might hear 20 or 30, different versions of his voice or whatever in the beats that he uses. Sometimes the stuff is like so romantic. Like for example, I just found out the other day that was it Crazy in Love? Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, Crazy in Love is a Future song that Beyonce took from him. I
Drunken
don't know.
Love.
It's Drunken Love, thank you. Yeah, I don't. It sounded funny. Like I don't know if she bought it from him. It sounded like he was kind of like trying to say like she took it from him, but of course he didn't want to offend her, so he like didn't. But so whatever the circumstances was, but like that was like his song with him on it, and like in the video that I seen, they played like his part, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. Of course, hers sounded way better if I'm just being honest, but just the fact that he wrote that and formatted it and like all that stuff, I just feel like he doesn't get a lot of credit. Also, another person, damn, Future had to be getting popular around like what 2009 or 10, somewhere around there. So he's over 10 years in the game. That's a long run. And if Future dropped tomorrow, his album gonna be number one. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like that's gonna be what people is playing for at least the next, 2, 3 months. His last album, pretty good album. You know what I'm saying? He has a lot of songs that I personally could play on repeat.
Right.
And also he's a person that he could do a song with Justin Bieber, like a pop song, or he could do a song with like Pooh Shiesty. Like, and like he's gonna contribute significantly in both situations. Like it's weird. Like, he could give Justin Bieber a little bit of street cred, or he can give a person like Pooh Shiesty a song and give it like that melodic catchiness that will make people actually like the song. I'm just using Pooh Shiesty as an example, but whoever. Um, so yeah, I feel like, and I don't, and who knows? Like, I just found out he wrote that "Drunken Love" song. He might have wrote a song for Rihanna too, or something. You know what I'm saying? It's like you never know with all of these different things. And then the album he had with Drake, it's like, man, it's like, God, he's done a lot. So I wouldn't be mad if someone had him in their top, but also too. I think if we were still in our 20s, he definitely would have been in our top five because we wouldn't have really been around for like Jay-Z and DMX and Bone and Boots. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that era would have been, what we was listening to as we were kind of coming of age and stuff like that. So when you've been around for a while, just like if we were in like our 50s, we probably definitely would have like Rakim and Big Daddy King or those people, in our list because we would have been there, when it was really lit. So yeah.
Yeah, and he like I guess probably around the time that he was dating Sierra, like he wrote some songs for her. So he's definitely very versatile. He definitely has a lot
Mm-hmm.
a huge or a very like a nice ear for music. And it's not just
Right.
hip hop, he can
Mm-hmm.
transcend different genres. So yeah, that was my first topic, just kind of talking about just for today, who our top five artists, uh hip hop artists are. So let's get into our next topic. Okay, so next topic is on you, Gio. What are we gonna discuss next?
Okay, I wanted to talk about maintaining friendships as an adult. So basically just kind of, everything that kind of goes into trying to, keep in touch with people and, remain close and things like that. So I have a couple of different categories that I'll throw to you first, and then after you give your feedback, I can give mine. So the uh the first thing I guess I wanted to start with was reaching out or like remembering to reach out. How do you do at reaching out to people that you want to maintain relationships with and things like that, especially since we all get busy, and I'm sure there's plenty of times where you may think of a person but may not reach out exactly at that time, and you may forget, or you may think of somebody at 6 in the morning and be like, oh, this is too early, or you might think of them at 10 p.m. and be like, ah, this is too late to whatever. So how do you deal with, and how do you do at like reaching out to friends and stuff like that?
Yeah, this is a really great topic, because I think that as people get older, friendships change and kind of
Mm-hmm.
expectations change. I had a friend whose mother said to me one time, we were in our 20s, and she said, when you get older, you're not going to have all of these friends that you have now. And I always
Mm-hmm.
remember that. And she was someone that, like, I don't know if she had friends. I know she had her work friends, but she really only hung out. Like, if she did anything, she only was with her kids. Like, she really was kind of the epitome of, like, I live for my children. And I always
Right.
thought that was super sad, because I was like, I don't want to, like, not have friends. And I'm someone who you know my closest friend that I've known for over 25 years says, I'm glad I still made the cut, because I've just, like, ended a lot of relationships over my life for various reasons. But uh yeah, I know I think I could do better with that currently. I think the people in my that I'm friends with now, I've known for 10 plus years. So I think we kind of have kind of gotten into a thing where I don't have to talk to you every day. My
Mm-hmm.
closest friend, we live in the same city. We probably talk to each other like once a month, maybe. But, like, I've known her for over 25 years. Um, so for me, like, me kind of checking with people is just kind of, you know, um, might be sending a random text, how you doing? Or I don't really talk to people on the phone. I think that's a thing. I used to
Yeah,
always be on the phone. Like,
I hate the phone.
phone conversations are like a thing of the past. I would say
Mm-hmm.
my closest friend, we probably do kind of a check-in. But other than that, it's like, oh, I may, send someone something like via text or whatever, like a funny whatever, like maybe a memory of something, like, yo, remember this? Da, 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 da. And that'll lead into, like, hey, how you doing? Um, but I probably could do better than that, because I think people do kind of cross my mind all the time. And I think also, for me, I always wonder, and this is no one's ever said this, is kind of like, if my adult friends, like, we're all about to be like 39, 40 plus,
Mm-hmm.
who wants, I mean, do you want me texting you at like 7 in the morning? Because I don't sleep, even though I'm currently on a normal schedule, I really still don't sleep. So I don't think y'all want that 6 a.m. text. So I'd be like, oh, I remember, Gio was telling me about, I don't think you want, but nonetheless, Yeah, I think that for me it's more so I not every day, not maybe not every week, but I do try to reach out. And I expect the same. And I think that I get that those that are close to me do reach out in their own way. And that's why we're still friends. Though the ones that I used to be close to, the reason why we're not is because I was doing the reaching out and I wasn't getting that reciprocated. Because you don't have
Mhm.
to reach that out to me every week or every day, but when you don't check on me at all, to me that speaks volumes.
Yeah, and I think that for me, it reminds me of a conversation that I had with my daughter, where I was, basically just telling her that kind of like the conversation that, your friend's mom had with you, where it's like, listen, you know, as the seasons change, so do, your friends, basically. Like, a lot of relationships are built upon like having things in common, like actively at a specific time. Meaning, like,
Right.
you're in school, you're taking the same classes, whatever, you grow up, you go to college, you're in the same dorm, you are in your party phase and you're going out to clubs together, and this is your club buddy, you work a job together, like stuff like that. A lot of times once you transition to a different school or a different job, or you don't go out as much or whatever, you do not have a ton in common. It's not like a bad thing per se, but it's just like y'all are like you're not on the same wavelength as this person anymore.
Mhm.
So, as you go through life, it is rare that, you have friends for long periods of time, because like there's people I genuinely like these people. Like maybe let's say a particular job like that I worked at. It's people that like I really fuck with, like from certain jobs, and we had a blast, and they like, helped me survive, working the job at that time. And I just really liked them, and I never had no crossword or nothing. Some of them we even hung out outside of work from time to time or whatever, but it was like literally as soon as either they left the job or I did, it was weird. It was like that was it. Like mutually, like not, and not even purposeful, just like you don't think of them anymore because you don't have that thing keeping you in contact, or that like foundation for your relationship. And so like you forget to reach out to them, and they forget to reach out to you. And then after a while, maybe, they definitely have crossed my mind, and maybe I've crossed theirs, but it's like, does this person even have the same number? Or like, would it be
Hmm.
weird for me to be like, hey, what's going on? I haven't heard from you in 6 years. Like, how you doing? Type of deal.
Right.
Um, and then where would it go from there? Even if it did, like to give somewhat of an example, my uncle, I was talking to him one day, and he was like, "Oh, guess what I seen the other day? Your friend, from back when we used to live in Arborwood, Dee Dee." And I was like, "Oh, word!" I was like, "Wow!" I was just thinking about him the other day. Like, this was like a good friend of mine. When I was a kid, we went to number seven school together. We lived in the same apartment complex. We used to play shoot 'em up, bust 'em up, and manhunt, and trade football cards, and like like we were close. You know what I'm saying? And once I moved again, that was kind of like it, and I didn't see or hear from him, and he just so happened to see my uncle, which I'm shocked that he even remembered my uncle, which was crazy because I'm pretty sure my uncle, well, my uncle has a good memory. He remembers people. Maybe he did remember him, but he was literally, we were kids when I lived there. Like he was maybe 10 or 12 at the most the last time my uncle seen him. So to see him as a grown man. But in any event, so he gave me his number. And honestly, if I still lived in Rochester, I probably would have met up with him. But he gave me the number, and I didn't go home. Like the next time I went home was like 5 or 6 months after he gave me the number, and I just forgot to reach out to him. And I thought a couple of times, like, damn, I never reached out to Dee Dee, but I never remember it while I'm home. And
Hmm.
that's the case for like a bunch of people that like I found on social media or like whatever. But yeah, so I think that one piece of advice that I try to take from another one of my uncles is, when you think of a person, just reach out. Like clearly not like you said, like I'm not gonna reach out at like 2 a.m., but at a normal time of day or whatever, if I think
Yeah.
about a person, shoot that quick text, or like, give them, that call, or, whatever the case may be. All right, so the next kind of topic that I wanted to cover is um making time. So there's like, a lot of different sort of schools of thought in terms of uh if you really want to make time for somebody, you will, or also, people get busy and you can't, always do that. So the one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, in your opinion, can you really just make time, especially maybe the time that would be suitable for the other person?
Hmm.
What do you think?
No, I do believe in that. I think maybe not every time, but I think
Hmm.
overall, I think you can. Especially because I think actually, if I can use me and you as an example, I was on night shift for almost 10 years. You didn't
Hmm.
even live in the same city. And we
Hmm.
always try to make it a point to either when you're in town, let's
Hmm.
meet up, or let me travel to where you are. I think that
Hmm.
was important to maintaining our friendship. And even now, like I said, my close friend, we live in the same city, but she's like never here. Like she works and then she travels a lot. So we don't
Hmm.
see each other like every like you would think, oh, that my best friends in the city, we no, we don't see each other, but it's like, okay, so what date, okay, what month, like we literally have to schedule. It's so weird, but it's true.
Right.
That's how busy that she is. And I think, um, if someone's important to you, you make time for them. It may not be as convenient. There's definitely been times, especially when I worked nights, where I was like half dead, but I
Hmm.
had to make the time. There would be some random, and it actually wouldn't be random, but like a baby shower or whatever. It's like, okay, I have to go to this. Like, please, if you can give me how do you say it, like advance notice, but some things happen, but I think you do make time for the people that you do care for. You nurture any relationship. I think is just like a living breathing thing. You have to take care of it and nurture it and maintain it, because if you don't, it'll go by the wayside, whether that's a friendship, a romantic relationship, family relationships, whatever. Like you have to maintain it. It can't just fall on one person. um, and so, yeah, I do think that if you really do care about someone, you do make the time as much as possible, and both parties have to be willing to do that. And
Yeah.
no one person's time is more important than the other person. So it shouldn't be just one person bending over backwards to make time for the other person.
Right, right. And I agree with that. I mean, I think that especially, I mean, this is going into kind of the romantic side, but I remember being a single person, and anytime I got like a last minute cancellation, a request for a rain check, or this girl's about some she ain't got no babysitter, that's some bullshit. I know she could have a babysitter if she really wanted to, or like whatever the case may be. Like,
Hmm.
I would be furious, and I always would feel like you could, make time, but you just choose not to. And the worst one would be if someone canceled and didn't reschedule as they were when they canceled. That to me was always like a clear indication that you never wanted to hang out to begin with. And that goes
Hmm.
for romantic or a friend. But to play devil's advocate, I think that some people do sometimes have trouble coping with like being busy, especially if there's like a change in their life, like they get a new job that's more demanding, or they're already working full time and then they start going to school, or also like family stuff. Like either you're in a relationship and like the relationship's new and naturally you're just trying to like spend time together and like focus on that and cultivate it. Or if you're like married or getting married, there's, that's going to demand a lot of your time. Definitely having kids can demand a lot of your time. So I could see, someone really genuinely wanting to spend more time with their friends, but struggling with how to like actually make that happen and fit, with all the other stuff that they have going on in their life. But for the most part, I agree with you, that if you really want to make time, you'll put forth effort and you will, kind of figure out a way to do that. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about was what I call perfect timing. This is a something that came to me maybe in like my early to like mid 30s, where basically you kind of got to catch me at the perfect time. Like for the most part, I can't schedule something weeks and weeks in advance because when it happens, I may not feel like doing it, especially like where I live, like being that I'm in Jersey and like most of my friends are in the city. I could tell you next month we'll meet in Manhattan to have lunch, but like when the time comes, I may not feel like driving an hour plus, to Manhattan and struggling to find a parking place and, paying a toll, $16 toll and like all this different stuff. So there's that. But then the other component would be even when I lived in the city, and this is more so in terms of like impromptu like requests to hang out. If you do not catch me before I go home, it's not gonna happen. Like, like if you wanna hang out with me in the evening, you gotta hit me up like in the morning while I'm at work and while I'm out and about. And then depending on where it is and how I'm feeling or whatever, then I could swing by and whatever. Then we'll hang out and do whatever it is that we're, doing as friends, dinner or like whatever the case may be. But if anybody reaches out to me when I'm at home, there's like a 0.1% chance that I'm gonna say yes and come out. You know what I'm saying? Unless it's like something extraordinary or like, you're about to die, or I don't know, something crazy, or you're celebrating something maybe, but how are you with that in terms of like, do people have to catch you? Are you good? Do you prefer impromptu? Are you better with advance notice? Like what works best for you?
Yeah, I think at this age, um, I need advance notice. I mean, unless it's something like really exciting, don't call me or text me day of and be like, yo, da 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 da, because usually like I've already kind of figured out kind of what I'm doing that day. And it's just I'm not really spontaneous like that no more. Like I'm not
Word.
22.
Hmm.
Like, so no, I'm no perfect timing. No, just tell me you better let me know a day at least. I mean, preferably a few days, but not day of, because that it I already have figured out what I'm doing for that day. So yeah, you probably should tell me in advance. Like, I don't know. Yeah, there's no not at this age. No.
Yeah, because I mean, in 2006, if you called me at 10 o'clock and said, hey, you want to go to Soho? And I was half asleep, I probably would wake up and go to Soho. You know what I'm saying? But which is a club for those that don't know, or it used to be a club when we were younger. I would have gone, but at this age, it's like, nah, ain't happening, Captain. Like, I'm not getting up on any whim or anything like that. Also, too, especially
Mm-mm.
like once you like get into like a serious relationship, and definitely when you have a family, you can't be doing stuff like that. Like my woman would look at me like I'm crazy if it was like 10 o'clock and I'm like, oh shoot, John just hit me up. I'm about to go meet him at the bar. She'd be like, what? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's like, not really respectful. So but luckily pretty much all my friends are the same age as me or older. And even if they do not have the same lifestyle as me, they, understand it and respect it. So, it kind of works. But okay, the next thing I wanted to ask you is in person versus virtual. And virtual, I'll include everything from the phone to DMs to um text messaging, all of that stuff. Do you feel like they count equally? Um, do you feel like one can substitute for the other? Like, for instance, if you see someone once a month, is that as good as texting with them every day? Or if you cannot see someone as frequently as you like, can you DM them or like whatever, and like that kind of like help a relationship stay afloat? What are your feelings on that?
Are we Okay, so are we talking about friendships or?
Friendships, yeah.
Okay.
This is all friendships. I'm sorry, I know I dipped off that one time, but this is friendships, yeah.
Oh yeah, most so my closest friends, there's only one friend that's locally. All my other ones are not in my same town, so or city. So I'm fine with text and whatever. As long as we're communicating and checking in and conversing and can share a kiki and checking in with each other, and yeah, it's fine. My closest friend didn't even live in the same city because she was in school and worked, blah blah blah, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm used to my closest friends not living where I am, but we always made sure that they would come visit me, I would go visit them. So and
Mhm.
we had to stay in contact, and so whether in whichever way that it was, and um yeah, so I'm good with it. Yeah, I mean
I,
it's been
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
it's been fine, and I think that also I think it shows the strength in my current like friendships is just like
Mhm.
we've been able to maintain and like strong friendships even though like we haven't always been in the same area as one another.
Right, right. And I think that for me, the virtual stuff is good either in addition to or in lieu of being able to meet in person. Like, of course, like, there's nothing wrong with like being having a friend and texting and like, sending something from Instagram or like whatever the case may be. But in general, I would definitely prefer in person. Like if we
Right.
lived in the same place, we would have hung out 1,000 more times than we have with me living in the New York area and you live in, where you live and things. So that that kind of it was good to have, other forms of communication. And I don't think either one of us is like really big on talking on the phone. So, being able to text and, send things once in the blue on Instagram and stuff like that, it did help keep the relationship afloat. And I think that also too, it kind of works well when you kind of have similar personalities. Like, you and I clearly are different, but we do have a lot of similarities. And I think one of them is that like we're not like super clingy or needy friends.
Hmm.
So if let's just say an example, 2 months was to go by and I didn't hear from you, like I wouldn't think anything of that. And it would like some people would be like, well, she ain't reach out to me, so I ain't gonna reach out to her, or like whatever. Like I would never feel like that. Or if you do, if you were to reach out to me after 2 months, I wouldn't be like, oh, look what the cat dragged in. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
I wouldn't make a thing about it. It would just be, oh shoot, cool. Oh man, I meant to actually reach out to you and you know what I'm saying? Like it would just, it wouldn't bother me because I'm not necessarily needy like that. And if I'm not reaching out to you a bunch of times, I can't get offended if you are not reaching out to me. So that's another thing too. Like I'm always fair like that. So I don't take things, real personal. But in an ideal world, if we lived in the same place, we would go have a drink like once in a while. Like sometimes when I'm here, especially in, like I said, living in New Jersey and having most of my friends in the city, it doesn't sound like much, but for a person that's not super, super social like me, it's kind of like a big barrier. Like it's almost like they might as well live where you live in a way, because there's a bunch of people that I probably see on the same frequency that I see you, and they live like an hour away. Whereas you live further than that, but that's just how it is. Like because most of the time, if I was to hang out with someone, it either way, if it was in advance, I feel better about scheduling something in advance if I only have to drive 15 or 20 minutes as opposed to an hour plus one way. You know what I'm saying? And in impromptu, if you and I live 15 minutes away from each other, I could be like, hey, yo, what's up? you want to meet up and have a drink real quick? And maybe you'll say yes and maybe you'll say no. You know what I'm saying? Or same thing for you, vice versa. Like you might hit me up, want to have dinner? Maybe I'll say yes, maybe I'll say no. Oh, I can't. I gotta pick my daughter up from this, or my woman and I were supposed to do X, Y, and Z, or I'm tired, like whatever. But or I might be like, oh shoot, like I wasn't even doing nothing. Thank God, yeah, yeah, let's do it. Type of deal. So it can kind of go either way. All right. Final one for me for this topic. And this I only have one topic, by the way, sorry. Um the final topic is what I call having the same vibe, which you may have experienced a situation where you either had a friend that just doesn't like to do anything because they've like gotten older and washed up, or the case may be, or like a person that hasn't been able to let go of like their younger years and they're still trying to like go to the club and turn up crazy and like all this different kind of stuff. So I'm kind of like in the middle, whereas like I'll don't have a problem with going out, but in a certain way. Like
Mhm.
I'm cool with like a brunch or a dinner. Like all of that stuff, like staying out till 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Like I'm pretty much like not gonna do that unless it's um I'm on vacation, or maybe if somebody had a nah, honestly, even then, like yeah, if somebody had a, I don't even know anybody that would have a birthday party in a club, but if somebody was to have a birthday party in a club, I probably would go at like 11 and leave at like 1 or something like that. Like, I don't see me like staying in any club until like the lights come on or like nothing like that.
Mhm.
Um, as I've gotten older, the types of things that I do with people, like I said, has changed. Like I could probably count on one hand how many times I used to like have lunch or like, some type of daytime activity with like anybody, you or like one of my other friends or like whatever the case may be, that just like wasn't really like something that would happen, especially scheduled. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, next Saturday you want to meet up at, Gitsy's is like, no, not really, like that just wouldn't really be a thing. But nowadays, I'm heavy on brunch, heavy on, okay, you want to like meet up at like 4 and, I could go home at like 6, 7, like type of deal.
Mhm.
So like how do you feel about that? And do you have any experiences with people where you're like not really on the same vibe, they're over here and you're over there type of thing?
Not currently. I think really the pandemic really slowed that down. I really don't have anyone that's like, yo, let's go to the club, drop down, get our eagle on. Like
Mhm.
I think we've really kind of transitioned to let's go to dinner, let's go to a brunch. I haven't been to, I mean, I'm not opposed to going to a bar. I don't really see myself, I'm not opposed to going to a club. No one's asked me to go to a club. Now, my birthday this year, I may be in a club, but that's only because of the year that it is for my birthday. But other than that, no, I don't really know anyone. It's usually like brunch, maybe a bar, but no one's really uh kind of still trying to live their heyday, trying to relive their younger years. I'm too old, I think. And actually, it's not really that they don't want to. I think our area, we wouldn't know where to go. There really isn't no place to go out. So I don't think it's not a want. I think it's just there's no place to go currently. Um, so I think that's really it. It's like more so people just having stuff in their homes, which is probably more safer and, anyways. But I haven't experienced that personally currently. Um, but yeah, hit me up for brunch though. I'm good for a good brunch.
Yeah,
Uh,
same here.
we're getting
But
older.
yeah, right. But yeah, that's my one and only topic. So that's it for me.
Okay. All right, so last topic, and then we can head on up out of here. So this is kind of pulled from the headlines. Just I don't really follow this, but I saw it. I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. I don't watch sports, but this has been kind of everywhere about Ja Morant, if I'm even saying his name right. He plays for the Grizzlies, currently suspended for 6 games due to brandishing a gun on Instagram Live. So he didn't shoot at anyone. He didn't, no one's life was in danger. He just literally showed a gun and on live and currently suspended for 6 games. And he just also lost an endorsement from Powerade. His ads have been pulled. So just for maybe what some may call deviant behavior. I don't know. I'm not calling it that, but I'm just putting a label on it. It's not only affecting his ability to work, but also it's affecting him financially because his endorsements have been pulled. So, just I don't know if you've seen this at all, but kind of I have some like generic kind of general thoughts about this. But what are your thoughts about didn't harm anyone. PD is not charging him with anything. He has not actually committed any crime, but he's being punished for showing a gun on Instagram Live.
I think that there is a couple of different ways that you could look at this. I kind of play devil's advocate, for the league or his sponsors or whatever first. And, I think this is something that a lot of times people don't have in check and they don't have awareness about is like kind of like the energy that you put out into the world. No, I didn't know. I want to preface this by saying I did not see this video. I don't even know who this person is. I don't watch any sports. So this is my first time hearing about this. So this will be more general and theoretical than about this specific instance and this specific person. But if you are in a position where you have a public image, whether you have like a corporate job, whether you're in some type of entertainer, but whatever it is, where the image that you put out to the public is important and it can affect the way that you make a living, I feel like it isn't wise to involve yourself in things that jeopardize that, things that make you come off as menacing or ignorant or like, whatever the case may be. So again, I don't know what this video was like, but if a person did have a Powerade endorsement and was a professional athlete and they were on a live feed trying to like do some type of like thug life stuff, like showing a gun, even if they didn't shoot nobody or they didn't get any charge or in trouble with the police, the image of that is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you are having endorsement, 9 out of 10 companies is not with having their spokesperson come off as like an intimidator or a criminal or even though that's technically he's not a crime, but you get what I'm saying, like any type of like just a negative like Powerade, just because this is the endorsement that you listed that he had. When you think of Powerade, you're thinking like somebody running, performing at a high level, that type of thing. And I think that's something that has been lost, maybe not lost, but is not shown to be valued as much and is definitely not promoted, which, that's a different story of what gets promoted and who does the promoting, etc. But like, it's just like, it's almost like it's bad to carry yourself with dignity. Like that's looked at as like soft or like you're a coon or you're pandering or something like that. But it's like, I think of like all the people that, were, or not all, but a lot of the people that were famous when I was a kid, like people carry themselves with dignity.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't imagine like Michael Jordan or Magic Johnson, brandishing a pistol on camera when when I was a kid and I watched basketball, or say what you want, Bill Cosby, like that's just not something that would happen. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, people had dignity, like people like going back to Bill Cosby, like Felicia Rashad, like she's like the epitome of like just dignity and grace and
Mhm.
class. And it's like it's like not cool to be like that no more. Even like Oprah, like I'm not a fan of Oprah personally, but like she at least gives like has a facade or a persona of like dignity and like striving for like success and like carrying yourself with like self-esteem and stuff. Like, it's like you don't have hardly any people to look at like that nowadays. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's gotten to the point where being ignorant is so cool that even when people are in position, like this gentleman, professional athlete, he must be pretty good, because if he's getting endorsements, that's like not, probably, I don't know, 10% of professional athletes probably get endorsements.
Mhm.
So, you know what I'm saying? Like, you've reached like a high level, and you're doing the gun thing. It's like, for what? Like, it's like no matter how high people get or how much they attain or how successful they are, the main opinion that seems to matter to them is like the lowest, most ignorant like class of people. And that's just seems so weird and bizarre to me. Now, on the flip side of that, in my opinion, like, or not my opinion, I would say, what if this was slightly different scenario, and this was I can't even think of any let's say what's this guy that Aaron Rodgers. If anyone doesn't know, like, Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback that played, or I don't know if he still does, but at least one point played for the Green Bay Packers, Super Bowl MVP, like, top guy. And I'm just using him as a random example. Like, if it was him and he made a video where he was out in the field with his buddy with a shotgun hunting some hogs, like, would he lose all his endorsements and be suspended for 6 games? I don't think so. So it's kind of like, that's like kind of whack too. But but at the
Mhm.
same time, like, it is, you can look at it like it's the same thing. It's two guys, they both got guns. Guns are quote unquote bad, whatever. But it's like the energy behind it. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's like, I have a gun, but I'm about to use this to hunt. And theor potentially, and like I said, I didn't see this video, so I can't really comment on it. But potentially, the other side is, I have a gun and like I might go in your house and shoot you with it. It's like, it's the same, but then it's different too. Like, I could kind of, like, see both. Um, so yeah, I can't really call it. Like, if I'd have to see it, and if I've seen it, and if he was just acting like an idiot and like trying to be like a thug and intimidating and tough, then in my opinion, like, you're a moron, and yeah, you're suspended 6 games, and yeah, your endorsement is gone because you're acting like an idiot. Um, but if he was not being menacing and somehow, I don't know, he's like, hey, I like to collect guns and here's one of them, and like whatever, it was like something like relatively innocent, and just because of who he is, someone, there was all these ramifications of him losing an endorsement and being suspended and things like that, then that's bullshit to me. But yeah, that's basically my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I saw like I mean, 2.5 seconds of it, and it looked like he just literally was just like, look, I got a gun. You know, I mean, just totally no purpose to it. And I think, like you said, like there's this kind of keeping up like with appearances, like, yeah, I'm in the NBA, but I'm still real,
Hmm. Right.
That's what it, in the little 2.5 seconds that I saw, that's what it looked like to me. It didn't look like he wasn't being, it wasn't like, oh, I'm in fear of my life or I need to protect myself. It literally looked like, yo, look at my gun, kind of a
Hmm.
thing. So it there was no purpose for it. I do think there also is, like you mentioned, I think that someone somewhere is probably making an example of him because he is African American, and they don't like when we do stuff. I think the consequence is probably more harsher for him than if, Billy Bob Smith would have done the same thing. So I think it's unfortunate. It's a learning lesson. I don't know what's gonna happen moving forward for him. It was there was no purpose to it. And he can't explain it. There was no reason for him to do it. So he's gonna have to lie in this bed that he made. And it's unfortunate that he's literally losing money for like a little, 5 seconds of enjoyment of whatever he thought he needed to prove in that moment.
And I think that you make a good point because regardless of the context of him showing it, I do feel like because of who he is, him making a mistake one way or the other is not as easily forgiven
Hmm.
or understood or empathized with, compared to if he was someone else. So that is always a thing. And you know, it frustrates me because as long as we kind of try to like anyone, as long as you try to exist in a space that is owned and controlled by people who are not you, you're gonna be at a disadvantage and you're gonna have to basically walk on eggshells. Like I feel like with us, whenever we get something, it's like you always know that at any moment it could easily just disappear and be taken away because you said the wrong thing or you posted the wrong thing or you did the wrong thing or you got in some type of trouble or whatever. Like you're not most likely going to get any type of understanding or like you know, second chances or anything like that. And whereas another person, they might get a third, fourth, or fifth chance. You know what I'm saying? So, um, yeah, it's unfortunate. Like I said, like a part of me wants to be like, bro, you knew better than that.
Hmm.
But then another part of me is like, another person that's look different than you, they don't have to think about life or be that pensive about every single thing that they do. So it's tough, man. It's a tough situation. I can't really tell anyone how they should act or what they should do, but you just kind of gotta know it's like one of those things with life. Like if I walk out into the jungle right now, like I might get bit by a lion. Like it's easy for me to be like, well, why the lion bite me? Like, you should know that I'm not, the food. And but it's like, okay, but like it doesn't. So like, you want to get bit or not? So, it's like, if you don't want to get bit, don't walk, don't walk over there by the lion. So, it's kind of like a thing like that where it's like, it's not fair, but like life isn't fair. So it's like, what do you want to accomplish? And like,
Right.
what do you want to do? And then like, so you have to behave in a manner rather that lines up with what you're trying to accomplish in life. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's all the topics for today, Gio. Thank you for joining me for another episode of The Male Perspective with Gio. Listen, you can catch Internal Rambles pretty much everywhere that you get your podcast content. If you want to interact with me and discuss some of the things that we talked about here, you can always reach me at YouTube. Just type in Internal Rambles, no space, one word, and I will pop up. Thank you for tuning in, GL. Thank you for hopping back on the podcast with me. I really appreciate it. And like I always say, take care of yourself, and if you are able to, take care of each other. And until next episode, this is your girl, Rachelle. Thank you, Gio.
Peace.
Bye.